In my previous video, I talked about control panel layouts, and I also touched on screen resolutions within MAME games and emulators. One of the reasons I got the arcade monitor was so that I could play arcade games in their native resolutions, but not just limited to arcade games. I wanted to be able to play things like a Nintendo Entertainment System in its native resolution, and it makes a huge visual difference. Unfortunately, on the screen here, what we're capturing is a lot of the flicker from the CRT signal. Just remember what I'm seeing, and if you were standing in front of the cab, it would be crystal clear. It's a progressive signal that I'm getting from the arcade monitor. I'm running a utility called TriSync, so it's running the background completely progressive. And when you come across games that the INI files, that program that I was referencing in the previous video, it does about 70-80% of them. You're going to come across some games that it doesn't do perfectly. So I'm just going to show you how to quickly tweak those. What I like to do in MAME is, if you look at MAME UI 32 or 64-bit, whichever version you're using, I'm using the 32-bit version of 0.141, which is the December build, and I think it's still the most current. There's been some updates to it, but I don't think 0.142 has been released yet. I like to update MAME because I like to, keep my fingers crossed that games that are still not working perfectly, get fixed. And of course, you could just look at the update files, and if it doesn't apply to you, you don't have to update, but I like to keep it updated. So anyways, the folders inside here that you generally tend to use in MAME, you've got the working folder, which is going to give you all the MAME ROMs that are working with the current build that you're using. So it's going to automatically exclude all the not working games, which are the ones in red here. So if you use the default all games, it's going to have all of these thrown in, including the not working. All right. So the working gives you a good list of games that you know are going to work. It's also going to give you a crap load of games that you're probably not going to be interested in, like Mahjong variants and things like that. So what I like to do is I like to make my own favorites folder. And that's as easy as just dragging a MAME ROM over to the favorites folder. And it's another reason I like to retain kind of the Windows functionality. There are obviously ways to do this. Hyperspin and Maximus Arcade all have shortcuts and hotkeys that allow you to assign games to your favorites list. But again, I'm always changing things, so this is how I like to do it. So if we go inside my favorites directory, you're going to see a list of the games that I've got, which is, there's a few hundred of them. These are the games that I like to play frequently. And within here are a lot of games that the INI utility didn't set correctly. One of my favorite is Black Tiger. So I'm going to load that game, and I'm going to show you what you can do with the odd games that don't set how you want them to. All right. In a previous video, I also talked about the Bumblebee icon that comes with your arcade VGA installation. You left click on that. It's going to give you a list of all the resolutions that are supported. All right. You're going to use those to do the individual tweaks. Now, if you're just dealing with your favorite games, I kind of load them up. If the INI file has fixed it properly, I don't worry about it. But if I come across a game that I want to tweak, here's how I do it. So launching is just obviously a double left mouse click. So when you get to this first screen here, it's going to show you the video and the sound that it uses. All right. So this particular game, Black Tiger, its native resolution from this initial default screen here, it used two Z80 processors, and it used a couple of the YM chips for sound, but more importantly, the video resolution was natively 256 pixels by 224 pixels at 60 hertz resolution. All right, so I'm going to back up out of here. This time I'm going to right click on the Black Tiger file. I'm going to choose Properties. I'm going to go to the Screen tab, and I'm going to go to the Resolution section where there's a size. Now it was 256 by 240, right? Now that resolution happens to exist in the list. Some games you're going to have to find one that's approximate, and you're going to be off by a few pixels. All that means is you're going to see a little bit more black space, to the left, right, or top and bottom, depending on where it's short, or, that's where you're going to see the black bar. All right. This one is exact. So I got 256 by 240. All right. The other thing that you want to check is you want to go to advanced. What you're going to find, you got a couple of sections here. You've got triple buffering, sync to monitor refresh, and wait for vertical sync. All right. What I like to do is if the game is a nice, convenient refresh rate, like this one was 60 hertz, that's what my monitor's running at right now. So I put a check mark on wait for vertical sync. I know I'm going to get perfect gameplay. There's not going to be any tearing, and the sound is going to be bang on. So you're going to change these settings here depending on the individual game. All right. If you go back to the screen section, you can actually also change the refresh rate. There's quite a few refresh rates here that you can change. All right. Now the new arcade VGA card, the arcade VGA 3000, actually lets you tweak individual refresh rates, way more detailed, so you can get exact specific refresh rates for odd games like R-Type that use 55.5 or kind of oddball refresh rates like that. All right, so what you're going to see with this one, so I've set it to 256 by 240. I'm just going to hit OK. That's going to be set. Anytime I play Black Tiger now, it's going to be perfect. Now, I've done this as I built this list, so I'm obviously, I keep my favorites list from build to build. It's not going to really change. The INI files aren't going to change. But if I launch Black Tiger, wiggle my joystick to start it, you're going to see here, if I just pan out to the back, that it fills up the screen perfectly. So I've actually got native resolution here, 256 by 240. And again, standing in front of it, it looks awesome. I mean, it's exactly what it was in the arcade. So if I pop in a couple quarters here and start the game, let's give you a quick example here. I'm going to run to the left and right, and you're going to see there's no tearing. It's perfect. Music's perfect. Response, everything's just bang on. All right. One thing I'm going to touch on in the third video, I'm not going to really get into it here, is the ability from your control panel to set admin functions. The iPac 2 is what I've used. I know the KeyWiz has something similar, but the iPac 2 has built-in shifted functions. And what that just means is you can assign a shift key. When you hold that key down in combination with other buttons or joystick directions on your control panel, you can mimic admin functions. It's going to do exactly what the admin function is. One of the built-in ones with the iPac is the escape function. And you activate that by holding the one player down and then hitting the two player. And you can see it just brings you right out of the game. Same thing applies for pause. You hold the player one down and you've got joystick direction. I've changed that. You can reprogram other ones. But pause, tab, and escape, those are all functions that are shifted support and do away with you having to have admin buttons on your control panel. All right. But I'll go into those in a bit more detail and show you how to set up the programming in a future video. But just getting back to the resolution, so that's how you change it in the MAME game. Where the native resolution is really sweet is looking at stuff like the Nintendo Entertainment System. There's a couple of emulators that I really like for the Nintendo. One of my favorite is Nestopia, and the reason I like Nestopia is it has support for resolutions that the arcade VGA supports. And I'm going to just launch it here. I've actually got it on my taskbar still. And go into the options. And what we'll do is we'll go into video. And you can see here the device is Ultimark Arcade VGA 2, and the mode that I've selected for full screen is 256 pixels by 240, which is oddly enough exactly what Black Tiger used. More importantly, that's the Nintendo's native resolution. And when you see a game in the Nintendo's resolution on a progressive screen, there's nothing better. You cannot mimic it on, a crappy TV, LCD monitor. There's nothing like Nintendo's native resolution. Just going to load up a game here to give you a quick example. So again, what I've done is just gone into video, changed the resolution to 256 by 240, and most major emulators are going to support that functionality for their respective emulations. WinVice is the emulator that I use for the Commodore 64. Again, same thing. It allows me to run at the native 320 by 200. WinUAE, same thing. The Amiga is a little odd in that it supported several different resolutions, and resolutions change from game desktop to game. So it's a little more finicky to set up, but just give you a quick idea here. I'm going to go to my recent files. Super Mario Brothers 3 is a great example. Just going to go full screen on this so you can see. But it's, again, just pixel perfect. And when you see the Nintendo game pixel perfect, I mean, again, nothing beats it. It takes you right back to playing this back in the 80s. Now, we had a Nintendo. Mostly I kind of played Commodore 64 and my Amiga, but my little brother had a Nintendo, so I did get a lot of playtime in with him. And oddly enough, I play the Nintendo probably more now than I did when it came out. But again, you can see it's just absolutely pixel perfect. Sounds perfect, and the screen just looks great. So that's just a quick kind of how-to on switching resolutions for individual games. Again, I touched on the utilities that do it for mass games, but if you want to do individual tweaking, that's how you do it in MAME. That's how you do it for emulators. Again, this was Nestopia, which is a great Nintendo emulator, and if you've got an arcade cabinet with an arcade monitor in it, it's probably the emulator that I'd recommend most for Nintendo. ZSNES, similar for Super Nintendo. Again, you can use native resolutions. Kega Fusion is the emulator that I prefer for Genesis. I think it's probably the best emulator out there, and in addition to Genesis, it also does Master System and a lot of the oddball Sega stuff, like I think it's the Sega SG-1000, which was their computer. And yeah, all of those emulators support native resolutions. So if you've got an arcade monitor in your arcade cab and you want to play them as they were originally intended, those are the emulators that I recommend, and just a quick how-to on setting those up. In the next video, I'll touch on those admin functions in a bit more detail, but you saw the gist of it there, and that's right out of the box without you having to do anything. All those functions are supported. I'll just get into a bit more detail on how you can customize them further. All right, thanks very much, guys.